Продовжую.
Ukraine Media Center Forum continues its operation. My name is Svetlana Shaprenko. Today is December 6th, the Day of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and we want to avail ourselves of opportunity to congratulate our defenders. So now let's talk about the harvesting campaign this year and the plan for the next year. Joining us online is Dmytro Solomchuk, member of the Verkhovna Rada, member of the Verkhovna Rada Agrarian and Land Policy Committee. Good afternoon, Mr. Dmytro. Good afternoon, Mr. Dmytro. We can summarize the harvesting campaign today, I think. So what was the amount harvested of the crops and how does it correspond with the forecasted indicators? Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate everybody with the Day of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and with the Day of the Saint Nicholas. First of all the children. Well, we want to thank our armed forces for the great job they're doing. Thanks to you, the agrarians can do their harvesting works and work in the fields generally. Well, we can summarize this season, but the harvesting campaign is only over in 5 regions of Ukraine. Corn is still in the field in some of the regions. In some of the regions there's also sunflower. Well, we've harvested 76 million tons, out of which 56 are grain crops and about 20 billion tons are oil crops. Well, we still await for some stronger frost so that the combiners can continue harvesting in the field. So I think we will cross the line of 80 million tons this year. So what are the plans of sowing for the next year? Do we expect to sow more than this year? Well, the sowing areas, if we take the winter crops and other crops that will be sown shortly, I think that the areas will be larger. Well, it all depends, first of all, on the results of the battle operations, but I think that the areas will be broader because in Kharkiv, Kherson and Mykolaiv regions there are more tens of thousands of additional hectares that were recently demined. For the agrarians, some of them will be sown shortly. Some of the agrarians wanted to sow more over winter rape, but unfortunately the weather conditions did not allow us to do so, and this is why the winter crops, well, probably the area of sowing of the winter crops will be a little bit smaller than the previous year, but the sowing campaign will be still on, specifically in the southern regions like Kherson region. And if we talk about the spring field works, the agrarians intend to sow more soil, sunflower and other oil crops. Well, Mr. Dmytro, yesterday there were positive news that the government started taking applications for export of rape corn and sunflower seeds for export through Bulgaria. Can you call it a diplomatic breakthrough? Well, yeah, it was a great solution, and I hope that shortly the majority of the countries of the European Union will be able to buy our products for free. I think that the customs will be unblocked because the reserves of the rape in Europe are falling down and they will need our products. The same situation is with blocking of a lot of borders, which results in interruption of the supplies of sunflower seeds oil. Now all of our manufacturing facilities are completely loaded. Not all of the products which was intended to be exported left the territory of Ukraine due to the blocking, and the procurement price of the sunflower seeds has fallen inside Ukraine, but the European countries still need it. So I hope that as soon as the full unblocking is happening, there will be more export supplies coming, because this is what the European consumers need. It's not only needed for our agrarians, because their consumers use a lot too due to the blocking of the export of our products. And this year there was a huge under harvest of olives, which resulted in growth of prices of the olive oil, and the Ukrainian sunflower seeds oil became in demand in the European Union, since sunflower seeds are almost not grown anywhere in the EU. So what is the geography and the amounts of export of this year? And you've mentioned the problems with the supply of oil. What about other types of products? Were we able to fulfill all of the obligations under all contracts, specifically in terms of shelling of the, or especially under the conditions of shelling of the port infrastructure? Well, it's clear we were not able to deliver on all of the contracts. You see, this things got so much more complicated. There are negotiations at all levels of authorities. The armed forces tried to ensure the security in the Black Sea. There were 200 vessels coming to the Black Sea ports. We've exported more than 7 million tons, but that's the figure we were getting within a couple of months. And our agrarians, for them to get a normal global price and to free their storage facilities for the next season, they need this amount of exports on a monthly basis, about 6.5 million tons to be exported on a monthly basis. So it's not our fault with it's all the result of the Russian aggression, no matter how difficult it is, but no matter how difficult our negotiations, but gradually the things get better. I hope that the export is going to improve shortly, because this is something that the consumers are waiting for. So what is the geography of the consumers, and what is the amount of this year's export? Well, if we talk about, say, soy or oil, it's mostly in demand in the countries of European Union. But if we talk about wheat or other crops, then the consumers are mostly in the countries of Africa and Middle East. The amount for the time being is not so big. On a monthly basis, in average, we export about 3 million tons, so basically 50% of what we're supposed to export. So what is the situation with the goods for internal consumption? What products can be in deficit next year, and what prices will be stable? Well, you see, the onion has fallen in price. Well, last winter we discussed it like 5 times a day during all the broadcasts, but this year the agrarians planted a lot of it, so I see no deficit of any products. We have reserves for maybe 5 years for Ukrainians to consume, and it all depends on the vegetables and the condition of their storage, because the storage facilities are not sufficient. The agrarians built more of them, maybe 15 of them, and we're missing like 150, 170 of storage facilities to preserve all the products that are being grown by the agrarians. Well, but what are the results of the government support? Did the farmers use 579 program this year? Well, the landed programs are always used by all of the farmers, both small and medium sized. This year we got about 39 billion hryvnias in extended loans. I think that is the biggest indicator during the war, and the agrarians make use of those loans under the lowest interest possible. Also, there are other programs in place, such as aimed at the construction of greenhouses, horticulture, and they will demonstrate their efficiency within 3 or 5 years. There are smaller programs, like an amount of 250,000 hryvnias for small farmers to procure equipment, for dairy products, manufacturing of some other things, for family type farms. This program operates successfully, and there are also programs for our farmers from private donors. The biggest one is the Harvesting of Victory, which supports the Ukrainian farmers all across Ukraine with the machinery. Well, let's proceed to the questions from the floor. Good afternoon, Anastasia Kravchenko, current form. I'm having a couple of questions, and my first question is about the mining of the agricultural lands. Can you please tell us what was the area that was surveyed, demined, and what is the dynamics of demining? Are we fulfilling some terms, or maybe we have more demined areas than forecasted or less? Well, I travel around the regions that are most densely mined, something that I see with my own eyes. The agrarians demine the majority of the areas themselves. They got the armed forces pyrotechnics, state emergency service pyrotechnics engaged. They undergo the special trainings, and they engage their own collectives in the demining processes in Kherson region. For what I know, the agrarians demine the area of about 65,000 hectares. In Kharkiv region, the figures are approximately the same. Basically, we've demined about 20%, and the majority of the mining was done by the agrarians themselves. And then there's another question about the plans for the next year. This year we were observing a trend when many agrarians were decreasing the sowing lands for the grain crops to increase the areas for the oil crops due to higher return from the oil crops. Is this trend going to remain for the next year? Will we observe the same situation? Well, you know, the agrarians, it brings more return to work with the cattle. You know, many farmers expand their operations with cattle, so I think the farmers will sow more sunflower seeds. So yes, I think that we will have the areas sown with sunflower increasing as well as with rape. Maybe there will be increase of sowing of barley because the return on barley was pretty good this year. There was no deficit, and if we talk about the southern regions, I think they will expand the areas for sowing the solid source of wheat, because the solid source are in demand among the Turkish consumers, for example, and internal consumers. Talking about the small farmers, those who work in a more modern way, who attend the conferences, find more clients, they switch to some exclusive cultures that were never sown in Ukraine before. Also, we expect the areas of sowing of the sugar beet to be expanded. Sugar beet brings pretty good return, and agrarians are, if agrarians are in the area where there is a processing capacities for the sugar beet built, they will sow more of them. So thank you very much, Mr. Dmytro, for your answers. We will be back on air at 1400, and we'll talk about the situation in Kherson region. Stay tuned.